When my sister got engaged, my parents threw her a lavish dinner. When I got engaged, my mom said, "We'll celebrate when it's official, if it ever is," so I kept it private. 2 weeks later, they saw the wedding photos in a magazine interview about the venue they could never afford. My name is Nathan. I am 32 years old. For most of my life, I have been the dependable one in my family. The responsible child. The one who paid his own college tuition while working 3 part-time jobs. The one who never asked for help, never demanded attention, never caused trouble. I thought that being reliable meant I would be valued. I was wrong. My sister Lauren is 28. She has always been the center of our parents' universe. When she graduated college, they threw her a party at a country club. When I graduated, they sent a card with $50 inside and a note that said, "Proud of you. Keep it up." When she bought her first car, they co-signed the loan and helped with the down payment. When I bought mine, I paid cash after saving for 2 years. And my father's only comment was, "About time you got something reliable." I learned early that my accomplishments were footnotes in the story of Lauren's life. I stopped expecting applause. I stopped waiting for them to notice. I built my career in commercial real estate quietly, and I built it well. By the time I turned 30, I was managing acquisitions for a firm that handled high-end properties across 3 states. I made good money. I lived in a clean, modest apartment. I kept my head down. Lauren worked in marketing for a local boutique. She changed jobs every 18 months, always complaining about her bosses, her coworkers, the commute. My parents would nod sympathetically over dinner and assure her she deserved better. When I once mentioned a difficult negotiation at work, my mother said, "Well, that's what you signed up for, isn't it?" I had stopped going to family dinners regularly by the time I turned 29. It was easier that way. Less disappointment, less silence when I spoke, less watching Lauren light up the room while I sat in the corner like furniture. But I still showed up for birthdays, for holidays, for the big moments, because that is what family does. Or so I thought. 3 months ago, Lauren got engaged. Her boyfriend Derek proposed at a winery during a weekend trip my parents had paid for. She called me the next day, breathless with excitement, and I congratulated her. I meant it. I wanted her to be happy. I always did. 2 days later, my mother called and told me they were throwing Lauren an engagement dinner at the Waterford, an upscale restaurant downtown with white tablecloths and a prefix menu that cost more per person than most people spend on groceries in a week. "It's going to be a beautiful night," my mother said. "We've invited 30 people, close family and friends. Lauren deserves to be celebrated." I said I would be there. I bought a gift. I wore a suit. I showed up on time. The dinner was everything my mother promised. The room glowed with candlelight. There were flowers on every table, champagne and crystal glasses, a slideshow of photos from Lauren's childhood projected onto a screen. My father stood and gave a toast about how proud he was, how Derek was lucky to marry such a wonderful woman, how he always knew Lauren would find someone who saw how special she was. People clapped. Lauren cried. My mother beamed. I sat at a table near the back with 2 of my cousins I barely knew. No one toasted me. No one asked how I was doing. When Lauren hugged me at the end of the night, she whispered, "Thank you for coming." And I nodded because what else could I say? I drove home that night, replaying my father's words. I always knew Lauren would find someone who saw how special she was. The sentence sat heavy in my chest, not because it was cruel, but because it was absent of me. In a room full of celebration, I had been invisible again. I thought maybe I was used to it. I thought maybe it did not matter anymore. I was wrong. 3 weeks after Lauren's engagement dinner, I got engaged myself. Her name was Sarah. She was a project manager for a design firm, sharp and kind, with a laugh that made rooms feel warmer. We had been dating for 2 years. I had known for months that I wanted to marry her, but I waited until I was sure she felt the same. When I finally proposed, it was quiet and private. I took her to the botanical gardens where we'd had our first date, and I asked her in front of the koi pond while the sun set behind the trees. She said yes before I finished the sentence. We decided to tell our families the following weekend. Sarah's parents were overjoyed. Her mother cried and hugged me. Her father shook my hand and said, "Welcome to the family, son." They opened a bottle of wine, and we stayed for hours talking about dates and venues and dreams. I called my parents the next morning and told them I had news. My mother said they were having brunch that Sunday and I should come by. I said I would. I brought Sarah with me. The house smelled like coffee and bacon when we arrived. Lauren was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with Derek, scrolling through something on her phone. My father was reading the newspaper. My mother was pulling a casserole out of the oven. It was a scene I had walked into 100 times before. "Nathan," my mother said without looking up. "You're late." We were 5 minutes early. I ignored the comment and sat down. Sarah sat beside me, her hand warm on my knee under the table. I waited until everyone had food on their plates and then I cleared my throat. "Sarah and I have some news," I said. Lauren looked up from her phone. My father folded his newspaper halfway. My mother set down her fork. "We're engaged," I said. There was a pause. Not the kind of pause that comes before joy. The kind that comes before judgment. My father nodded slowly. "Well, congratulations." Lauren smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "That's great, Nathan." "Really?" My mother picked up her fork again and cut into her eggs. She chewed. She swallowed. Then she looked at me with an expression I could not quite name. "We'll celebrate when it's official," she said. "If it ever is." The words landed like stones. Sarah's hand tightened on my knee. Lauren looked down at her plate. Derek shifted uncomfortably. My father said nothing. I stared at my mother, waiting for her to clarify, to soften it, to say she was joking. She did not. "What does that mean?" I asked. She shrugged. "You know how these things go, Nathan. People get engaged all the time. It doesn't always work out. We'll throw you a party when you actually get married. If you make it that far. If you make it that far." Sarah stood abruptly. "We should go," she said, her voice tight. I stood with her. Lauren finally looked up, her face flushed. "Mom, that was—" My mother interrupted. "Realistic." I did not say anything else. I took Sarah's hand and walked out of the house. I heard my father say something behind us, but I did not stop to listen. By the time we got to the car, Sarah was shaking. "I'm so sorry," I said. She shook her head. "Don't apologize for them." I drove us back to my apartment in silence. The whole way, my mother's words played on a loop in my head. "If it ever is. If you make it that far." Not congratulations, not joy, just doubt, dressed up as realism, delivered with a smile that was not a smile at all. That night, lying in bed, Sarah turned to me and said, "We don't need them there." I looked at her. "What?" "For the wedding," she said. "We don't need them there. We can do this however we want, just us." I thought about it. About the years of being second, about the engagement dinner for Lauren with 30 guests and champagne, about my mother's words at brunch, about the way my father had said nothing, about how tired I was of waiting for them to see me. "Okay," I said. Sarah kissed my forehead. "Okay." And just like that, the plan formed. Quiet. Private. The weeks that followed were strange. I did not call my parents. They did not call me. Lauren texted once to say she was sorry about what Mom had said, but she did not push the conversation further. I did not reply. Sarah and I started planning the wedding immediately. She had always wanted something elegant but intimate. I wanted something that felt like us. We agreed on a small ceremony. 50 guests, people who actually cared, people who had shown up for us over the years, friends, Sarah's family, a few cousins on my side who had never treated me like background noise. We hired a wedding planner named Isabella who specialized in luxury micro-weddings. She walked us through venues, and when she showed us Ashford Estate, we both knew. It was a private manor 2 hours north surrounded by gardens and stone pathways with a conservatory made of glass and iron where the ceremony would be held. The reception hall had vaulted ceilings and chandeliers that looked like they belonged in a European castle. The cost was significant, but I had saved well and Sarah and I split it. Isabella smiled when we signed the contract. "This is going to be beautiful." It would be. And my parents would never see it. I did not tell them about the venue. I did not tell them we had set a date. I did not tell them anything. When my mother finally called 3 weeks after the brunch, I let it go to voicemail. She left a message. "Nathan, it's Mom. I haven't heard from you in a while. I hope you're not still upset about what I said. I was just being practical. Anyway, Lauren's bridal shower's next month, and we'd love for Sarah to come if she's free. Call me back." I deleted the message. Sarah asked me once if I was sure I wanted to do this. Cut them out completely, not even tell them. "Yes," I said. She nodded. She did not ask again. The invitations went out 6 weeks before the wedding. Cream cardstock with gold lettering, elegant, simple. My parents' names were not on the list. Neither was Lauren's. I had my cousins Evelyn and Liam included, both of whom had always treated me with respect. I knew word might get back to my parents eventually, but I did not care. By the time they found out, it would be too late. Planning the wedding became a kind of therapy. Every decision we made felt like a reclaiming. The flowers, the music, the menu. The photographer we hired was someone Sarah had worked with before, a woman named Francesca, who had a reputation for capturing emotion in every frame. When we told her we wanted the day documented beautifully, she promised us she would. "This is your story," Francesca said. "I'll make sure it's told right." I thought about my parents, about my mother's doubt, about my father's silence, about Lauren's 30-person engagement dinner, about the years of being the footnote. This wedding would not be a footnote. It would be the whole story, and they would not be in it. The night before the wedding, Sarah and I sat on the balcony of our hotel suite near Ashford Estate. The air was cool, the stars were out. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "No regrets?" she asked. "None," I said, and I meant it. The day was perfect, unseasonably warm for October, with a sky so blue it looked unreal. The gardens at Ashford Estate were in full bloom, the leaves on the trees just beginning to turn golden red. The conservatory glowed in the morning light, every pane of glass catching the sun. I stood in the groom's suite with my best man, a friend from college named Blake, who had flown in from Seattle. He adjusted my tie while I stared at my reflection in the mirror. I looked calm. I felt calm. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. "You ready?" Blake asked. "Yeah," I said. "I am." Downstairs, Sarah was getting ready with her bridesmaids. I had seen her the night before, but I knew today she would be radiant. She always was. The ceremony was set for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 50 people, no more, no less. The guest list was tight, intentional, full of faces I actually wanted to see. By noon, guests began arriving. The staff at Ashford greeted them with glasses of champagne and ushered them into the gardens for pre-ceremony mingling. I watched from a window on the second floor as people I cared about laughed and talked and took photos by the fountain. My cousin Evelyn was there with her husband. My friend Gavin from work. Sarah's entire family beaming with excitement. Not a single member of my immediate family, not my mother, not my father, not Lauren. It should have hurt. Maybe part of me thought it would, but standing there watching the scene below, I felt nothing but relief. The ceremony began at 2. I walked down the aisle in the conservatory to a string quartet playing something soft and timeless. Sarah appeared moments later, and the whole room seemed to hold its breath. She wore a gown that looked like it had been spun from light, her hair pinned back with small white flowers, her smile so bright it made my chest ache. When she reached me, she whispered, "Hi." "Hi," I whispered back. The officiant spoke. We exchanged vows. I promised to choose her every day. She promised to build a life with me that was ours, free from shadows and doubt. When we kissed, the room erupted in applause, and for a moment, the world was nothing but joy. The reception was held in the Manor's Grand Hall. Chandeliers sparkled overhead. The tables were set with ivory linens and arrangements of roses and eucalyptus. Dinner was served in courses, each one more elegant than the last. Speeches were given. Blake told a story about the first time he met Sarah and how he knew immediately that I was in love. Sarah's father welcomed me into their family with words that made my throat tight. Evelyn stood and said she was proud of me and that she had always known I deserved happiness. No one mentioned my parents. No one asked where they were. It was as if they had never existed in my story at all. We danced. We laughed. We cut the cake. Francesca, the photographer, moved through the crowd like a shadow, capturing everything. She pulled me aside at one point and said, "This is magic, Nathan. Pure magic." I believed her. By the time the night ended, I was exhausted in the best way. Sarah and I stood on the steps of the manor as guests trickled out, waving goodbye, hugging people we loved. When the last car disappeared down the driveway, she turned to me and kissed me slowly. "We did it," she said. "We did," I said. And we had. Without them, without their approval, without their presence. We had built something beautiful and they had no part in it. 2 weeks after the wedding, Sarah and I returned from our honeymoon in Portugal. We were sun-tired and happy, our phones full of photos, our suitcases stuffed with souvenirs. Life felt light. We unpacked slowly, letting ourselves ease back into routines. On a Thursday morning, Sarah's phone rang while we were making breakfast. She answered, listened, then looked at me with wide eyes. "It's Francesca," she mouthed. I turned down the stove and waited. Sarah nodded a few times, said, "Thank you," and hung up. She stared at me for a beat before speaking. "Francesca submitted some of our wedding photos to Lux Venue magazine," she said. "They want to feature us." I blinked. "What?" "It's a big deal," Sarah said, her voice picking up speed. "They do these features on exclusive wedding venues. Ashford Estate contacted them months ago trying to get coverage, but they're really selective. Francesca told them about our wedding, sent over some shots, and they loved it. They want to do a full spread. 6 pages, photos, an interview with us about why we chose the venue, the whole thing." I set down the spatula. "When?" "The issue comes out next week," Sarah said. "They want to interview us tomorrow." We looked at each other and then slowly we both started to smile. The next day we sat in our living room with a journalist named Diana and talked about the wedding. She asked about how we met, why we chose Ashford, what the day meant to us. We told her the truth mostly. We wanted something intimate, something that reflected who we were. We did not mention my family. We did not mention the exclusion. We just talked about the beauty of the day, the people who mattered, the life we were building. Francesca sent over dozens of photos, the conservatory bathed in golden light, Sarah walking down the aisle, the reception hall glowing under chandeliers, close-ups of the florals, the cake, our hands intertwined. Every image was stunning. Diana smiled as she flipped through them on her tablet. "This is going to be one of our best features this year," she said. The magazine hit newsstands the following Tuesday. Sarah picked up 3 copies on her way home from work. We sat on the couch and opened one together. The spread was breathtaking. The headline read, "Intimate Elegance, a Love Story at Ashford Estate." Our names were printed beneath it. The photos filled every page, each one more beautiful than the last. There was a shot of Sarah and me standing in the gardens, her veil blowing in the wind. Another of the conservatory at dusk, candles flickering on every surface. A close-up of our vows handwritten on cream paper. And there on page 4 was the paragraph that mattered most. Nathan and Sarah chose Ashford Estate for its exclusivity and timeless elegance. The venue, which hosts fewer than 20 weddings per year, starts at $50,000 for a full-day event. For this couple, it was worth every penny to create a day that truly reflected their love and vision. $50,000. Sarah read the line aloud, then looked at me. "You think they'll see it?" "Yeah," I said. "I think they will." The call came 2 hours after Sarah read that line. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced at the screen. I let it ring. It went to voicemail. 10 seconds later, it rang again. I declined it. A text came through. "Nathan, call me now." Then another. "Why didn't you tell us you got married?" Then another. "We saw the magazine. How could you do this?" I set the phone face down. Sarah watched me from the couch, her expression unreadable. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. Another call, this time from Lauren. I declined it too. Then my father called. I turned my phone off entirely. Sarah reached for my hand. "They're going to keep trying." "Let them," I said. But the messages did not stop. They came through on Sarah's phone next. Lauren again, then my mother. Sarah read them aloud, her voice flat. This is from your mom. Tell Nathan to call me. This is ridiculous. We're his family. Another one from Lauren. I can't believe you got married without us. Mom is devastated. Dad won't even talk about it. What were you thinking? Sarah set her phone down. You want me to block them? Not yet, I said. I wanted to see how far they would go. The next morning, my mother showed up at my apartment. I knew it was her before I even opened the door. The knock was sharp, insistent, the kind that demanded attention. Sarah looked at me from the kitchen. I nodded. She stayed where she was. I opened the door halfway. My mother stood in the hallway, her face pale, her eyes red. She looked smaller than I remembered. Nathan, she said. Mom, can I come in? No. Her mouth tightened. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You got married, she said, her voice rising. You got married and you didn't even tell us. We had to find out from a magazine, Nathan. A magazine? Yeah, I said. I know. She stared at me. How could you do that? We're your family. I leaned against the doorframe. You told me you'd celebrate when it was official. If it ever was. Remember? She flinched. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, you did. Nathan, You doubted me, I said. You doubted us. You made it clear that my engagement didn't matter, that I didn't matter. So, I decided you didn't need to be there. That's not fair, she said. Fair. I repeated. You threw Lauren a 30-person engagement dinner at the Waterford. Champagne, toasts, a slideshow. When I told you I was engaged, you said maybe it would work out. Maybe. Do you have any idea how that felt? She opened her mouth, then closed it, her hands twisted together. We thought you understood, she said finally. Lauren's always been. She needs more support. You've always been fine on your own. That's not support, I said. That's favoritism. And I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt. So you just cut us out? She asked. You marry the love of your life and we don't even get to be there. That's right, I said. Her eyes filled with tears. Your father is heartbroken. Lauren is. She doesn't understand. None of us do. Good, I said. Now you know how it feels. I stepped back and closed the door. She knocked again, called my name, but I did not answer. Eventually, I heard her footsteps retreat down the hall. Sarah appeared beside me. She did not say anything. She just wrapped her arms around me, and I let myself lean into her. A week after my mother showed up at my apartment, Lauren called. This time, I answered. What do you want? I said. I want to talk, she said. Her voice was quiet, strained. Can we meet? Just the two of us. I hesitated. Why? Because I miss my brother, she said. And because I think I owe you an apology. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my office. Neutral ground. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of her. She looked tired. The confidence she usually carried was gone. Thanks for coming, she said as I sat down. I did not respond. I just waited. She slid one of the cups toward me. I got you a black coffee. I remembered. I took a sip. It was still hot. Lauren folded her hands on the table. I read the article, she said. I saw the pictures. It looked beautiful, Nathan. It was. I wish I could have been there. You weren't invited, I said. She nodded slowly. I know, and I get it. I do. Do you? She looked down at her cup. Mom's a mess. She cries every night. Dad won't talk about it. He just shuts down whenever your name comes up. And I feel like it's my fault. It's not your fault, I said. It's theirs. And yours a little. Her head snapped up. Mine. You never said anything, I said. All those years, all those dinners where they ignored me. All the times they chose you over me, gave you things I never got, celebrated you in ways I never experienced. You saw it, you knew, and you never said a word. I didn't think. You didn't think it mattered, I finished. Because it didn't affect you. She looked like I had slapped her. That's not fair. It's true. She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. You're right. I blinked. What? You're right, she said again. I saw it. I knew they treated you differently. I knew it hurt you. And I never said anything because it was easier not to. Because I liked being the favorite. I liked the attention, and I told myself it didn't matter because you seemed fine, but you weren't fine. And I ignored that. I stared at her. This was the first time she had ever admitted it out loud. I'm sorry, Nathan, she said. I'm so sorry for not standing up for you, for not seeing you, for letting them treat you like you didn't matter when you mattered so much. Her voice cracked on the last word. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She did not wipe them away. I did not know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her. Part of me wanted to walk away. I settled somewhere in between. I appreciate that, I said, but it doesn't change what happened. I know, she said. I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. Or didn't do. I nodded. Okay. Can we fix this? She asked. Someday, I said honestly. I don't know. Maybe, but not today. She nodded, wiping at her eyes. Okay. We sat there in silence for a few more minutes. Then I stood. Take care of yourself, Lauren, I said. You too, she whispered. I walked out of the coffee shop and did not look back. That night, I sat at my desk and wrote a letter, not an email, a real letter on paper with a pen. It felt important to do it that way, permanent. I addressed it to my parents. Mom and Dad. By now you've seen the magazine feature. You know that Sarah and I got married. You know that it was beautiful, expensive, and everything we wanted. You also know that you were not there. I want you to understand why. For my entire life, I have been the child you overlooked. The one who did not need you because I never asked for anything. The one who paid his own way, solved his own problems, and stayed quiet when it hurt. You celebrated Lauren for everything. Her graduations, her engagements, her existence. When I achieved something, you nodded and moved on. When she achieved something, you threw parties. When I told you I was engaged, you doubted me. You said you would celebrate when it was official, if it ever was. Those words broke something in me. They told me that no matter what I did, I would never be enough. Not for you. So, I decided to stop trying. Sarah and I planned a wedding that reflected who we are. We invited people who love us, people who have shown up for us, people who see us. You were not on that list because you have never truly seen me. You saw the dependable son, the reliable one, the backup. But you never saw Nathan. I do not expect you to understand this. I do not expect you to apologize, though Lauren tried. I do not expect anything from you anymore. That is the point. I am building a life with Sarah. A life full of people who choose us, who celebrate us, who do not measure our worth by comparison. You are not part of that life. Not because I hate you, but because I deserve better. I hope someday you realize what you lost. Nathan. I folded the letter, put it in an envelope, and addressed it. The next morning, I mailed it. I did not wait for a response. 3 months after the wedding, Sarah and I bought a house. It was small, but ours, a little cottage with a backyard and a front porch where we could sit in the evenings and watch the sunset. We painted the walls soft colors. We hung photos from the wedding. We filled the rooms with furniture we picked out together. One Saturday morning, while we were planting flowers in the garden, my phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. I saw you bought a house. Congratulations. I mean it. I read it twice, then set the phone down. What is it? Sarah asked, her hands covered in dirt. Lauren, I said, do you want to respond? I thought about it. Then I picked up the phone and typed back. Thank you. It was not forgiveness. It was not an invitation back into my life, but it was acknowledgement. A small step toward something that might someday resemble peace. Sarah smiled at me. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "I am." And I was. For the first time in my life, I was building something that was mine. Not measured against Lauren. Not waiting for my parents' approval. Just mine. The magazine feature had done more than expose my wedding to my family. It had shown me, and them, that I did not need their validation to be worth something. I had always been worth something. They just never bothered to notice. Now, standing in the backyard of the house I bought with my wife, surrounded by the life we were creating, I realized something. I did not need them to notice anymore. I was free.